would it be possible for me to take an entire Minecraft server and recreate it in the real world? I mean, my first reaction when I asked myself that question was, God, no, of course not. You know how much work that would be? But you see, the problem is the last time I did a video like this, I accidentally made a functional robot. So now if I do videos like this, I feel like I gotta constantly be at that level. Hello, my name is Jess, and welcome back to the series where I take my obsession with Minecraft YouTubers and try and recreate their builds in the real world. This by far is my favorite series to do on the channel because not only do I get to spend an entire video just absolutely nerding out about the specific niche of Minecraft YouTubers, but also I get to put big Minecraft YouTubers in the title and thumbnail, which historically, pretty good for the channel. But you know, it's mostly the first reason for sure. And today I have a very special project planned because we will be returning to the wonderful world of Empires SMP, specifically Empires Season 2. If you remember, I've already tried my hand at making one of the Empires before, and that was LD Shadow Lady's Prismarine Palace from the Ocean Empire. So when it came to picking another project to do based on the Empire server, rather than instead of focusing on creating one empire, what if I tried to create all the empires? You know, basically an entire server. Instead of making one big diorama for this project, instead, what if I take each empire and turn it into its own little miniature that have all the pieces combined together to make a big 3D map of the entire server? You know, sort of like a strategy board game map, which honestly, Empire strategy board game would go so hard. I'm picturing this end map kind of looking like a Catan board. The map is just a bunch of different hexagon pieces all together to make the landscape. Simplifying it down to this is the only way a project like this would even be possible. And the cool thing about these little individual miniatures is that I can actually take directly from the world save file and actually 3D print it into these little miniature pieces. And the best part is that I actually already know how to do it because I figured all that stuff out a year ago when I did my Hermitcraft 3D print process. I mean, I'm really hoping that I remember my really convoluted process on how to do it, because if not, this is going to be a lot less fun than I thought. So while I do have some experience on how to do this project because of previous ones, this one's still pretty intimidating because instead of focusing on recreating one thing, I'm going to be doing several different empires. So not only is it going to be a bigger project in general, but I also have to design and make sure that all these individual pieces can actually fit together at the end. So even though I'm super excited to work on this project, getting started is still kind of daunting. Well, I think the best place to get started on this project is the same place that I start all my projects, and that's in Millinote, who so happens to also be the sponsor of this video. Wow, can you imagine the timing on that? How convenient. I am being so honest when I say that I have used Millinote on basically every single creative project I've done since I first discovered them. It is just by far the best tool that I have found to quickly lay out any ideas, resources, inspirations in a completely customizable and visual way to help you plan out your project. You have seen me use Millinote so many times on this channel. And also I use Millinote for the boring day-to-day organization as well. I use it to keep track of my expenses, contract deadlines, video outlines. Heck, I even use it for my grocery list just because Millinote is basically the only place that I can just visually organize stuff so quickly. So let me go ahead and show you just how I would organize this project in Millinote. So when you're starting a new Millinote board, you have the option of using one of their pre-made templates from mood boards, mind maps, outlines that will help you get started on your project. For mine, I'm going to be starting with a blank board. First thing I like to do is just kind of add some goals of what I want to complete in this project and what I'm envisioning. And then next thing is normally bringing in a bunch of inspiration, which is nice because I will normally grab inspiration from all over the internet, so being able to just kind of plop them all in one place is super useful. Here I have some examples of cool 3D printed maps that I found. Plus I found a couple of these really cool custom Catan pieces that is definitely the shape and look that I want to go for, that I'm envisioning for this project. Next thing I do is I take their little checkboxes and I start to break down the project into different phases and then different subtasks under that, which is really nice because not only is it less intimidating to break everything down into individual tasks, plus I can go through and check my progress as soon as it's done. And then I'm able to organize all of my resources. And like I said, I did a project kind of like this before where I already made a board with a bunch of resources on how to paint miniatures. So instead of having to go find all those references pieces again, I was very easily able to go back to my old board, copy that, and place it directly into this new one. I am not an organized person. The fact that I was able to find resources from a year ago is only because I know exactly where I put it in Milanote. Not to mention all the great features like being able to upload documents, to add videos, to make tables, draw directly on the board, and you can do all this in real time with your friends when you share the board. So organized. And also, one of my absolute favorite things about Milanote is that you can get started using it completely for free with no time limits. So if you would like to give Milanote a try, you can use the link down in the description and start planning out your next creative project today. Thank you once again to Milanote for being such a great returning sponsor on this channel. And with our plans in place, I think it is finally time to get started on this project. So one of the first steps was going into Illustrator and figuring out the layout I want each of these miniature pieces to have. Like I said, I'm taking a lot of inspiration from Catan, and lucky for me, apparently 13 hexagons for the 13 empires fits really well into one big hexagon, meaning all the empires will all have the same exact size of this little hexagon, which it was very important to me to have all the empire pieces be even in the same size, even though there are some empires way bigger than others. Obviously, since I'm putting it into a hexagon, it's not going to be exactly accurate to how the actual empires are placed, but I did try my best to have them placed relatively to like the same distance and neighbors that they would have. Like, for example, we have the ancient capital right in the center because that is the one that is closest to spawn. Meanwhile, we have Everseas and Glimmer Grove at like the opposite sides of the map, mirroring how it actually is. Unfortunately, it does leave some weird like half hexagon spaces. So I think I will 3D print some filler landscapes to still tie everything together, but just not have it be part of a kingdom. Okay, so that sounds like a plan. I think the next step is to go and actually visit the empires. To Minecraft! And here we are at the lovely Empire spawn. I'm pretty sure it's been like 2 years since the season 2 wrapped up, but oh my god, I'm still not over how freaking pretty this all turned out. Okay, but we can't get distracted by its prettiness because we have a job to do, and that's to scout out some empires. Also, before anyone says anything, yes, I did steal Grian's eyes. I did it for a YouTube short hoping it would get more engagement, and unfortunately it worked really well, and now it's too late to back out now. Now, I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the empires from season 2, and maybe have figured out a couple of issues that might come up. For instance, perhaps entire empire floating in the sky. Or, you know, on the opposite end of things, an entire empire underground. Oh my god, there's so much wonk in here. Or, you know, maybe an empire where they just never stopped building. Like, did Sausage ever sleep during the series, or was it just only building like 24/7? Because my god. So, as I mentioned earlier, I do have a way of taking Minecraft worlds and exporting them into 3D objects using an application called Mineways. As magical as a 3D printer might be, I can't just send this off to it and have it work. If I were just to take this entire empire, scale it to the size that I actually wanted, there would be so many details that would just be lost, or just random blocks that aren't connected to anything that would cause problems while printing. Not to mention that I would actually like to paint all these miniatures at the end, and the idea of trying to paint every single little building and thing of grass and tree does not sound fun nor possible. I'm going to go and scout out each empire and look for the most iconic landmarks from each of them, and kind of compose them into a nice representation of each empire. That being said, some empires are still going to be easier than others. For example, for Cogsmeade, obviously I think the most iconic thing here is the clock tower and the air balloon. Or in Glimmer Grove, where like the main central of the empire is the dual tone castle. Meanwhile, somewhere like the Goblin Empire, it's a bit harder because there's not too much of like one iconic thing. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to select one empire and focus on only making that one miniature at first. That way I can use it as a proof of concept and also a template for the rest of them. I'm pretty sure the best empire to start with at first is Animalia, because we do have the main town hall as a good landmark, but also a lot of the empire is made of these tiny little villages, and I can't print all of them, so it's going to be a good challenge to see how I can work around this. Alright, without further ado, let's get started.
So it's been a minute, but I think I have my composition for Animalia, which I think it looks pretty good, because remember, this is not supposed to be all of Animalia. It's just supposed to kind of like represent the vibes. So we have all of Town Hall, main and center. We have a smaller version of one of these houses on the side. These aren't the exact platforms, but I ended up building some up. Then I took 1 or 2 houses and kind of placed them around the side. I did try and add the amethyst crystal fountain thing as well. Whether it comes across as a fountain or not without textures, we'll see. And you'll notice that I kind of add just like a lot of blocks random places. That truly is just to hide where I had to rip this from the main thing. Like in the original, it's connected to another platform back here. But since I did not want that, I just put a mountain and then some blocks that will hopefully help blend it together. I did kind of struggle of like, oh, it's too plain in the back. I should add some more. I should add a house from every single district to represent that. I should add a bridge, add a moat. But at the same time, I have to remember, the more and more detail I add to this one, I have to add that much detail to the rest of the empires, because I really want them to be balanced. I need to remember that these hexagons are like only 2.5 inches wide. Like when I'm looking at Blender, I'm like super zoomed in and thinking that like, oh, you're going to be able to see all these details in the final product. When again, reality, some of these blocks are going to be absolutely teeny tiny. So to really make sure that this is the scale of detail that I want, I think it would be a good idea to try sending this one off to the printer, and also make sure that this can actually print without problem. Need to know how long it took me to get that off the build plate, but it is off now, and that is all that matters. Okay, I should probably clean it so it's not toxic uncured resin.
Alright, so here we have our cute little Animalia. It is so freaking tiny. Like, look at all the tiny little details. Though I am really glad that I did print this out to scale, because there are some things on here where I'm just like, I was focusing on it in Blender, like the amethyst crystal in the courtyard. I like spent time like making sure that was just right. And then in reality, it is so small that you can't even see anything that I did on it. So that's good to know going forward, that like not waste my time on anything too small. Like if it's only a couple of blocks, I just should focus more on like big picture stuff. But overall, I am very happy with the scale, and now I can use this scale in Blender to cross-reference it with all the other empires to make sure that everything turns out balanced at the end. It did take me a little bit longer to model this than I thought, by about like 2 hours. So if it's like 2 hours for the rest of the empires, and there's 12 empires, it's like 24 hours. Okay, I guess that's just going to be super fast 3D model mode from here on. I do admit it was a bit tedious having to jump from empire to empire and exploring all the separate little landmarks. It was a lot of fun re-exploring the world and remembering all that happened during this series. I didn't start watching many of the creators until after season 1 was well over, so I really enjoyed being able to watch season 2 as it came out. Not to mention, do you all remember the absolute hype when they started hinting about the crossover? Wow, this mysterious rift has appeared. What could it mean? And we're all just like, hermits, hermits, hermits. The day that it actually started, I remember me and my roommate would not shut up about all the wild hermit and empire interactions. I know it was just a Minecraft web series, but being able to relive the journey of them creating this world, it was just really nice.
minute to do. It's been like a day and a half of just constantly going back between Minecraft to Mineways to blenders to Mineways but when you take a look at the final map, I think I did a pretty good job. Look at all these tiny little empires. I very much did try my best to make sure that all the empires felt balanced against each other, which at some points did become like kind of tricky because, you know, some empires have grandiose landmarks like palaces and temples, and you know, some empires have a tent and good vibes. Which, considering that, I think what I came up with is pretty good. There were a few that were kind of tricky, like the Evermore and Sanctuary, where they are very, very built into the environment of where a lot of like the trees, the landscape, the mountains, like without all the mangrove or jungle trees, it kind of does lose a lot, which just printing Minecraft trees at that scale just doesn't work out, and I feel like it would get very lost at this scale. So again, what I have here is my best. And you might have noticed over here at Stratos, I do have Joel's temple, which we will see if that prints at this scale. I feel like it's a 50-50% chance. But right now I have it set up where it is separated from the base because I'm going to be putting like a little clear tube that will be holding it up to kind of make it look like it's floating in the air. Which I also have a similar thing happening over here with the Cogsmeade blimp. So they'll be printed separately and then glued on. Oh, and then also another tricky empire was the Goblin Empire. Like obviously for this one I decided to do like an X-ray of the underground. As funny as I think it would be to only put the entrance to the Goblin Empire, I don't think it would be quite equal. Now when I was going through and finding buildings for each empire, it wasn't always immediately like, oh, the biggest thing there. Like if I did that for Tumbletown, that would be Joel's statue then. So it was a lot of selecting different things and playing around with like the landscape and also like the scaling to just give the feeling of the empire without it being like 100% accurate. And also finding buildings that would translate well to the scale was also something I needed to be worried about. Over here you can see that we have a couple of empires connected by oceans. I'm planning on making like a water texture to go with it, and I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. And from here I gotta export them out, bring them into the slicer, and then start printing. While it is a lot of separate pieces, luckily I think I'm able to fit about 5 to 6 of these empires onto one build plate at a time. And luckily since they're not too tall, it doesn't take too long to print. So to get everything printed, I'm going to guess it's going to be 3 batches at 3 hours. So about 9 hours of 3D printing, which actually isn't terrible, considering that the last time I did a project like this, it was 48 hours. But I should probably get that started going.
Alright, so while my 3D printer is probably going to be running for quite a few hours, now is probably a good time to work on another part of this project. Because we need something to actually hold all these pieces together into one map, I need to now make a nice little tray to display and hold all of them. Which I do have to make custom because it needs to be that kind of exact hexagon size. And I was kind of going back and forth on like how I wanted to do this because it's like, oh, I could just also 3D print that. But then I would probably have to make it out of PLA, and I just don't think it looks the best. But then I remembered I picked up something on clearance that might help. It is this weird little wooden tag shaped thing. It was apparently $4, and I'm pretty sure I can take this and turn it into a nice little wooden tray. And it actually should be pretty simple because I already have the vector of the exact size I need, and I have a laser cutter. So I'm going to, almost threw it off the table. I'm going to go ahead and do that now.
"20 minutes later."
Well, tried some different settings, but unfortunately this is too thick to cut reliably, I think, without setting the laser so high that it sets on fire. Shame that didn't work. I thought I'd be able to reuse a little clearance thing, but luckily I have some 3mm plywood that I know that will work. So I'll just cut a bunch of those out and then glue them on top of each other. Cool, now if we just take this, stack it on top of each other. Oh yeah, like a glove. I feel like that's a good height in comparison to everything. Hey, you know, actually, you know what'd be kind of cool? Like, completely unnecessary but cool, is that I can actually engrave stuff on here as well. So maybe it'd be cool to kind of like engrave the Empire Season 2 logo onto the base of it. Like, it's going to be covered majority of the time, but like I would know it's there. But what are the chances that the Empires SMP logo is like readily available in black and white? Probably not that good. Okay, I can find the PNG, but not like a vector. Fine, I'll do it myself. Finally, a use for my graphic design degree. Though technically, now that I think about it, I have done graphic design work for an Empires member before. Oh, that looks good. That looks so clean. Honestly, I think this works even better than my original plan because it fits it really well. Okay, so I'm just going to glue these down, and I also have a little bit of wood stain as well to make it look even better.
Oh, it just disappeared. Oh no. Okay, I do see now that it's called dark walnut, but it didn't look that dark in the photo. We'll see how this turns out. Okay, wait, and another thing. You may have noticed like a drastic change in the lighting from when I was gluing this down to now. I let this only dry for like 30 minutes. Just weird Florida weather has been happening. It got like super dark, like it looked like night outside. Then when it finally started to rain and like comically thunder, the sun came back out. Probably no one cares about the weather here, but like I want to explain the discrepancy in my shots.
Once it dried, I actually thought that looked pretty good. There's something about wood that makes something feel a little bit more elegant. And if I were to seal this properly, I could maybe use it as an Empire-themed charcuterie board. Now that that side quest is done, it's time to check and see how our tiny little empire is printed.
Oh my gosh, after staring at this for so long at a computer screen, it's really cool to see in real life. Maybe I really should have opted for a bigger scale for this because it's like, while you can see the detail, these things are so freaking delicate. And I really tried my best while I was cleaning and handling them. But if there are some extra supports left or missing towers, we're going to say that that was all design choices. Which, admittedly, right now, it does look a little underwhelming, perhaps all in gray. So I think what will really make this all come together is giving it a little bit of pop with some paint.
Also, little update, I have finally invested in good miniature paint. This is Pro Acryl, and it is a tad bit more on the expensive side. As much as I wanted to believe that the Walmart paint could get just as good results as the fancy stuff, that just ain't true. After using this, I am never going back.
I think the easiest thing and thing that will make quite a big impact would be doing the landscape, which mostly is just going to be dry brushing on some green. Get rid of most of the paint. Let's start on one of the empty spaces because this is definitely one we can mess up on. Definitely want this map to be saturated and bright, but also keep some of those shadows to make it look a little bit more realistic. Part of me wants to be like, oh yeah, this is going good, but truly all I've done so far is just paint one piece green. And the good thing about this project is a lot of the project is landscape, which I'll be able to knock out pretty quickly, and then now the buildings on the other hand, that will take a little bit longer.
Like, look how smooth this paint goes on. Look at the coverage. Like, they're not a sponsor. I just used such bad paint for so long that I'm just in love with this now.
Wow, just adding the landscape base colors has done so so much for this. Okay, so that was probably the easy part. Now it's getting into all the little nitty-gritty details. I think I am going to start with the empires that have water surrounding them because there's a water effect that I want to add and it's going to need time to dry, so let's go ahead and complete those first. Let's start with the archipelago.
So for these miniatures, obviously at this scale, I am not going for block accuracy. It's more of just getting the general base color of everything and the general shapes. And with like zoomed in on my camera, yeah, you can kind of see that it's a little bit messy. But from a distance, it's going to look a lot better. Like for example, in the game, this is a striped rainbow tent. I'm not going to focus on, oh, okay, it's this color, then this color, then this color. I'm just taking colors that look kind of close and just dotting it on there. But from a distance, you can't even tell, it looks good. And that is one empire down, several more to go.
You know, if I had a nickel for every time I painted a 3D model of a Gemini Minecraft build, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but is enough to justify making this joke. I think someone doesn't like that joke. I think it's Jimmy. It's in Wild. Yeah, in Wild. Yeah, it was Jimmy. So, sorry. Though I don't want to assume you're watching. That sounds very presumptuous. Though I do have a pretty good track record of just creators showing up in the comments section whenever I make videos like this. And somehow I now have like the Thanos gauntlet of comments from creators that I like watch and enjoy and look up to. It's wild. It's starting to look like these are the starter locations and this is everything else that needs to get unlocked on the world map.
Okay, now it's just time to make Stratos fly, which sounds really exciting, but all I'm going to do is super glue a tube onto the bottom of it, and I'm going to super glue that to the base. I mean, with the magic of lore, we're going to make Stratos fly. Where's the super glue? A little bit more magical super glue around the base. Wow, how simple that was. That actually looks pretty darn good.
Okay, with that one is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 done, which is more than halfway there. Just barely, but more than halfway. I will say, none of the empires so far have been like particularly difficult to paint by themselves. It's just the fact that it's kind of averaging 30 to 40 minutes per empire. And maybe if I spread it out more, it would be fine, but I really, really want to get it done tonight. So it's just kind of doing it back to back to back to back. That's just kind of making for a long painting session. But also at the same time, I'm loving seeing like the life come to each of these empires with the colors. So I'm going to keep on powering through. And once I'm done painting all the empires, this project is complete. So we are very close to the final results. I'm so excited to see it.
I am really proud of how this final project turned out. Not only does it look amazing all put together, but I also love how you can take out and hold the individual empires as well.
I am so happy with how the final piece turned out, but of course it wouldn't have been possible without all of the amazing builds made by the Empire's crew to begin with. I had a lot of fun creating something to represent a series that I really love. If you so happen to stumble upon this channel and enjoyed the video, I have a ton more MCYT related projects over here, and also a bunch of other nerdy videos like LARPing and bookbinding and armor making, so if you're interested in any of that, that's there too. And of course, thank you to my lovely Patreon members for helping support the channel and help me continue making these silly little videos. Also, you can let me know what other MCYT projects you would like to see brought in the real world in the comments below. And as always, I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!